I'm Trent Luce. Welcome to another edition of Rural Route, the program where we gather every day at this time. Well, we do it Monday through Friday anyway. And what we do when we gather is continue to address the issues between rural and urban America. I'll just start by saying, Angel Cushing, it's been just far too long since you've taken time away from your massive research into government intrusion in our life and joined me on the air. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Coming to us from the greater Flinthills of Kansas, Angel first had, well, I'm just going to give the background as I know it, and then you can correct me as you always do when we're together. But she had a local county and particularly a city, Emporia, Kansas, that decided that they were going to just start taking land away from landowners in Lyon County, Kansas. And they made one goat farmer, veteran, patriot wife, and just all great American upset. And so she decided to go on a campaign, and now she's learning about land grabs in every single aspect. National Heritage area in Kansas we work together on. She works tirelessly on it. I just show up once in a while, and she's here to set the record straight on what's really going on between the collusion between, there's always got to be a collusion. Why is that, Angel? There's a collusion between the National Park Service and the University of Nebraska. What's next? And by the way, how are you?
Fine, I'm doing well. What's next is the Department of Defense. And the other thing is the third party. There's never direct. Nobody ever talks to each other directly. They always use a third party, fourth party, fifth party in these collusions. And they do that with money too, which is incredibly frustrating. It is getting a little crisp and cold here, but not near as cold as it is in Nebraska, which is why I live in Kansas, which is a tad bit warmer than what you are right now.
Yeah, well, the sad part of that story is that you know better because you once lived in Nebraska and foolishly left, but that's another topic for another day. All right, first of all, let's just back up in case, hard to believe people wouldn't be with us just every step of the way every day. But what is a National Heritage Area?
So if you ask the National Park Service what a National Heritage Area is, they would tell you that it is a new partnership to preserve land between the government and the private entities. And they no way and ever would ever become a national park, even though there are currently 3, the National Heritage Areas that are now National Park Service units. And that they would never encroach on personal property rights, which they do all the time. If you ask the National Heritage Area, they would tell you that they are all about linking tourist attractions, the historical tourist places. They're just linking it. Now, they can do that without a federal map, but they appear to always want a federal map, federal boundary, creating federal jurisdiction within this area. What they actually are is just that, a federal jurisdiction with a federal boundary with federal money that comes into a small entity of non-elected, non-appointed people, none of whom have anything to do with agriculture whatsoever, with these great big huge fat management plans with 10 different ways of talking about how they want to preserve your land. There are 55 of these in the country, and how they are, I kind of put them on a level of 1 to 10, 10 being just about ready to become a National Park Service unit, and 2 at about just wanting money. These small little special interest groups who want the federal dollars to spend on their pet projects, and they tend to leave everybody else alone. That's not going to happen for a long period of time, as there is congressional legislation working its way through Congress that puts all of these directly under the Department of Interior. That means that those managing boards and those managing plans that are on the shelf collecting dust are going to get pulled down. There is preservation for recreation ideas that have been going on a long time. I recently got into a little bit of history here in Kansas. If you drive through Kansas, you will notice that we have a lot of lagoons in the country. Instead of septic tanks, lagoons is the thing. And it's a little bitty lake that's dug. It's not. It's actually sewage for the folks on the East Coast with a chain link fence around it. Now, the chain link fence is to keep diseases down because apparently possums and raccoons and field mice will not cross them.
They don't go across the chain link fence?
That's what I'm told.
Wait, whoa. We do have one other issue, though.
What's that?
I see plenty of migratory fowl swimming on lagoons.
Well, yes, and you'll also see raccoons and possums and field mice crossing those fences. But apparently, this is the cleaner way to go for septic tanks. Now, I found that rather weird when I moved to Kansas and started picking the state to retire in. But I recently discovered a little bit of history. About
Okay.
25 years ago, they actually tried to move people out of the rural areas by banning septic tanks.
Really?
The lagoons is a response to that. The
So,
lagoons is a fight back.
who did that? Was that a state of Kansas initiative?
No, that was a federal initiative that came down and got tried here in Kansas.
Really?
Yep.
I
To
I
ban.
didn't know that we tried to ban septic tanks.
Yeah, either did I. Either did I. And the test pilot of that was the state of Kansas. That's why we have the lagoons. The lagoons is a response to that effort to try to eliminate septic tanks. Kansas started passing laws. They fought back and ended up with lagoons.
Hmm.
Yeah.
To back you up a little bit farther, you mentioned that there are now 3 parks, official parks, that started as national heritage areas. Where are they?
Shenandoah, which is East
Shenandoah,
Coast.
Iowa?
Nope.
Oh, Shenandoah Valley in Virginia.
Yes, Virginia. Thank you. And then there's
Okay.
Blackstone River or Blackstone is now one in Cane River, and I think Cane River is in Louisiana.
That sounds right.
And then Blackstone, I forget where that's at.
Okay. I'll bet
Those
I
are
can tell you pretty quick.
yeah.
But that's very telling, Angel, right there, when they act like this has nothing to do with becoming a park. You get that message all the time, and yet the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. Well, and as I get into this, so that we have opposition groups now in Florida, because there's one of these national heritage areas going in the panhandle of Florida. Of course, you're aware of the one up Big Sky up in Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And Ray up there, she's in touch with the one trying to go in the state of Washington. So there's common denominators that I'm finding with these national heritage areas is they are always working with a college, and most of their board members are started or come from college backgrounds. And they're always working with a military base. Now, I haven't tested that one completely. Just the ones that I know of are always working with the military base, but I don't know if that is predominant in history. For Freedom's Frontier, for example, here in Kansas and Missouri, I can't find the link to any military installation, so I'm not sure that they are. But I am finding that in Montana and in the Kansas-Nebraska Heritage Area Partnership.
And Colorado, because Pinyon Canyon was definitely linked to Fort Carson.
Yes.
Because I was involved with that one at the time, because I had many people, ranchers, I don't remember how many years ago. It was early on in my living in the trenches, but that was all tied to Fort Carson.
Well, there's this memorandum of understanding. We had dropped a Freedom of Information request on the Kansas National Heritage Area Partnership and National Park Service. Now we're under the impression, and if you got on, I don't know if it's still there, but if you got on Red Cloud's website, you got the impression that this was started in Red Cloud, Nebraska, right? Mm-hmm. That these folks were exploring a way to preserve the Willa Cather Foundation. They came up with a National Heritage Area. When we got those Freedom of Information requests, it really didn't mention too much about Willa Cather at all, and I found that quite interesting. So, but one of the things that I did notice is that there was a mention of memorandum of understandings that the University of Nebraska did with the students at UNL. Well, that would have fallen under our Freedom of Information request, and they were not provided. I thought, well, that's interesting. And I got to thinking about that. And I thought, well, maybe those memorandums of understanding were done before there was a National Heritage Area discussion. So I dropped a Freedom of Information request on the University of Nebraska looking for those memorandum of understandings. My request was quite wide. It's all documents, everything. Sweep them all. Everything on the University of Nebraska relationship with the National Park Service. Yesterday that I got informed I'm getting a bill for that for $1,684, I think it is. That's a lot of documents. Just how extensive is that relationship between the National Park Service?
I love the third option which they provided to you, because I did read that letter, and it said, or of course you could drop your request.
Yes, or
I
you could
am
drop your request.
dropping nothing, Angel, but I do have to go to a break. Certified Piedmontese. We have Piedmontese cattle in the greater Flint Hills of Kansas grazing on the prairies because, well, we still do have some fences down there. You can be a part of the Certified Piedmontese system, and what that means is you produce a specific quality, and in this case, it's a Piedmontese tenderness gene, and you need to get paid for it properly. Details from Marlon Will about the premium of $180 plus per head over market price. Certified Piedmontese should be in your future. More Angel Cushing after this. All right. Segment 2. Back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Roll Route, Trent Lewis alongside Angel Cushing, champion for property rights like no other. I want to go back to this letter because it was very offensive for me, and I'm just reading what you wrote. For initially, they told you that it would be a $200 charge, and
well,
then
that's your
go ahead.
standard. So when you fill out the paperwork, you have a standard charge in there, and that's $200. But you ask for a fee waiver because it is not for commercial interest. I'm not going to take this information and use it to buy real estate. And I'm not a media company. So I applied for a fee waiver, and that fee waiver came back and said that that doesn't start until you hit the $50 threshold. And since the information that you are requesting is not going to meet $50, then your request is moot. And then, wow. And then I got asked to narrow down my search, and that made me curious. And then now I have gotten a big bill, and I did resubmit late last night. I did resubmit to have that fee waiver reevaluated because clearly it's over $50. But more curiously is, my goodness, that's an awful lot of information. How extensive is the relationship between National Park Service and universities?
I feel like we should back up just a bit again, because you and I both know that this, you alluded to it, but I want to go into detail about how this did not begin in Red Cloud, Nebraska. It began in a classroom, basically with a professor assigning us students a project about creating a national heritage area, right?
Did it? Well, that's where those memorandum of understanding come from. If it is just an assignment, then why the memorandum of understanding? And if there's a memorandum of understanding, were the students paid? So that's...
And how can something like this incubate in a classroom at a university to begin with, to go out and remove, what, remind me now, 36,000 square miles?
It's a lot. It's 49 county.
That would go out and basically paralyze property rights for landowners in 2 states. How does this happen?
That's and where does it come from? So while we were up there and while we were doing meetings, we heard from a lot of people, and some of the people kept giving me some rumors that I admit, okay, so here's the thing that you have to understand is I live in a county that actually tried to ban barbed wire fences. Actually tried to do that in Flint Hills cowboy country. So you would think that I'm pretty much able to be open-minded enough to grasp anything that the federal government's going to do and is coming up with. So I'm thinking that, and I kept hearing rumors up in that area about drone ports, for little airports for drones, and that that Fort Riley and the Department of Defense was going to work with these coalitions up there and these board members up there to purchase drone ports and then donate the rest of the land that might be around, because drone ports, it's a very small section of land that you need, and then donate the rest of the land to the National Heritage Area. Remember, the law says that they can't use federal dollars to acquire property, but they can use everything other than federal dollars, and they can also accept donations of land. but I had nothing substantiated on it. So, you file that away as rumor. Well, then a document came up, and it was a request for proposal for a architect or a designer planner, however you want to call that, to redo the comprehensive planning in that area, specifically for the Phoenix Corridor project. And that is a path to take your drones from Fort Riley or your aircraft and take them to Smoky Hill training area, which is southwest of Salina, which is in Saline County. So more on the south central part of this National Heritage Area. And of course, the route that they want to take is not over I-70, is not over all the population. It's way up north through this National Heritage Area. But what really got my attention about this document from the North Central Planning Commission is that it states in there very clearly that this will be the method in which they inform the landowner that their property is going to be used for drone training. And while we're all grasping at that, just for anybody that's outside of Kansas, like Trent, that may not know, Kansas is the highest producer of military personnel. So Kansas, more people in Kansas, more young kids graduate from high school, join the military in the United States Armed Forces from this state than any other state.
I didn't know that either.
This is the most pro-military state that there is. If you were to knock on a landowner's door, hey, can I train and practice? You were to send them a letter, you probably wouldn't get much resistance. They love their military here. So why the sneakiness? Why the back door, putting it in a comprehensive plan and then declaring that as the notification of everybody up in the area?
Move your phone a little farther from you. There you go.
Better? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, you're just overdriving your sound. Just want to fix that. Go ahead.
Okay. So that dropped me down into another rabbit hole, and I spent a long time researching, and they are planning a corridor. I've dropped another Freedom of Information request for the joint land use study that should be coming out specifically for this corridor. From what I'm reading, they're worried about impacts on land and that it's flying very, very low. I'm thinking, okay, that's fair, but why not send people? I mean, we had that at Fort Hood. I lived underneath one of these. It was actually quite cool because they came right over the roof of the house. They were very respectful of the animals while they were flying. So I didn't understand all the secrecy and why this tied into land use policy, and why would they buy up all this land to donate to the National Heritage Area? I mean, why not give that back? So while I'm going through this, and I'm notifying everybody that I'm going to be on your show this morning, I got a phone call last night from a fella that's been sitting in on these meetings up there in Clay County, Kansas. And he's telling me that not one of the commissioners, so get this, not one of the commissioners in Clay County knew that they were getting a new comprehensive plan.
Really?
Yes. He's been sitting in on these missions.
On a need-to-know basis, apparently.
Apparently,
so much for transparency of local government.
Yeah. So they, the meetings themselves, he said, were scheduled to where you had to go look for them to find them. They would be in the newspaper at the very last minute, right before the meeting. He said, to give you a good example, this last meeting here, he said they showed up, and a few of them, concerned citizens mostly, they showed up. Economic development people were there, but the North Central Planning Commission did not show up. The next morning in the newspaper, there was a notice saying that the meeting was going to be canceled. I mean, that's how much notice they give you up there for these meetings to discuss this comprehensive plan and this corridor for drones. It's nuts.
So I in no way, shape, or form have any knowledge of what happened, but I do want to bring it up because we had somebody comment on it last summer of 2020. We had a massive number of drones every night spotted. I don't know about Kansas. I know on the Kansas border and Nebraska, but every night there was drone spottings for probably 2 months in the middle of summer. Nobody seems to know what they were. They're off the radar, pun intended. And I don't know that this could be related to that in any way, shape, or form. We just know that it happened because we saw them, and there were certain areas that were seen also.
And were those areas in the National Heritage Area map?
No. The most predominant area that there was a few like around Binkelman that were on a regular basis, but the predominant area these drones seem to show up every night was north central to northeast Nebraska. They were everywhere. We saw them over our place one time. There were people that every night saw them from Bassett to Ainsworth to Norfolk, but they were massive and they were just very not telling. We don't know what was being told, but it was very obvious.
Well, apparently you got to read your comprehensive plans to know what's going on. Commissioners don't know. Your radio station, your TV, nobody knows, but you're going to have to go in and see your zoning administrator and ask him according to these documents.
Yeah. All right. We've got to take another break. We're halfway through. I've got a question. Angel reads a lot. Has she read this report? We'll find out when we return with more Rural Route. Before I let you go, Dr. Nathan Bryan has worked a deal because we care about the health and well-being of people. Nitric oxide is not something you should be taking since the invention, I said that on purpose, of COVID. You should be taking it every single day. I've taken it every day for 18 years. And now Dr. Nathan Bryan has branched out on his own company, NO2U.com. NO2U.com. It's nitric oxide, Dr. Nathan Bryan's own company. Dr. Nathan Bryan. And he has agreed to give you a 10% discount and pay no shipping. It's shipped free. Moral of the story, NO2U.com. Back with the second half of Rural Route after this. So, Angel, we closed really good. There for a while, your sound, I think you were just too close to the phone.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you to tone it down because that's your passion coming through, but it just your
Hold
sound
the phone
was a
away
little.
further. Okay.
Perfect.
It's okay now?
It's perfect now.
Okay. So I'm keeping the phone further away.
That's perfect right there.
Okay.
Thank you, Walter. I did not hear about those drones in the Red River country. Back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Rural Route, Trent Lewis alongside Angel Cushing, joining us from the Flinthills of Kansas. Angel, I told you I was going to give you a quiz when we get back. Did you read the statement? It's not an executive order. It's a statement by the Biden administration on Friday afternoon, October the 15th, after all major news goes to sleep or goes to party or whatever they do on a Friday afternoon. It's entitled Fact Sheet Roadmap to Build an Economic Resilience to the Climate Change Impacts, issued by the White House.
I remember it coming out, and I remember thinking, I don't want to read this if I plan on sleeping. So
it pretty much, to me, and there's so many factions to it. The statement itself, it's trying to make the point that if your business is not climate change carbon neutral, you're not going to get any money from the banks, because we're going to come in and close down the banks that do not mandate climate change neutral as a parameter. It's pretty easy for me also to read through this, that land ownership by individuals is morally problematic and a lousy idea. And in fact, I had somebody who I think is fairly credible tell me that interpretation is that by 2030, for sure by 2050, there will be no land ownership by individuals if this type of thing progresses. And that is the path which you've been looking at and digging into for how long?
2 years now since they we found out they were trying to ban barbed wire fences here in Lyon County. More recently that popped up over the weekend is a survey by the Kansas Department of Transportation. They want people to volunteer to be a participant in the test program to tax people based on miles driven rather than on their fuel. But when I took the survey, and I did take the survey last night, it sounds more like that they want to add a mile tax on top of, in addition to fuel tax. And I had a conversation with a couple of folks in the city, and I had to explain to them what this does because they couldn't understand why I objected to this so much. And so what you have to understand is that people that live in the country have to drive in town. So the first thing you're doing is shifting wealth. You're going to make the poor people pay for the roads that they use sometimes in the city for people who live on top of them. The second thing you're going to do is increase the food prices because food has to come in trucks out of the field. So that's a test program that they are working on here in Kansas. So anybody on this that's watching this from Kansas, find that. You can find it on my Facebook page. Find that survey and let them know what this would do to your farm. It'll increase your heating costs. If you're in the country and on propane, that comes to you by truck. Gasoline comes to you, even in the city, to the gas station by truck. That's going to increase the cost to truckers, and you're going to feel it at the grocery store and at the gas pumps. It's that to me is a deliberate attempt to move people out of the country and into, it's okay to lose your land. You're not going to want to be there anyway. You can't afford to live there, kind of thing. It's maddening.
So
it's incredibly maddening.
We always have plenty of people from Oregon who join us, although it's early in Oregon. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Oregon already put in place this mile tax. It maybe hasn't taken effect, but they do not eliminate. You're exactly right. They do not eliminate the fuel tax that you pay. So you're going to pay a mile tax plus a fuel tax.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be on top.
That's a given.
Yeah.
Donna, can you tell me when that goes into effect?
So they did pass it. Okay.
It's in the works. It's not gone in yet. Thank you, Donna. But I assure you, you're spot on in that it is going to not eliminate the fuel tax. It's going to be on top of it.
Well, even if it did, it's still wealth redistribution. You are making, they keep telling us that it's primarily, and in these small towns, that's probably correct. It's primarily retired folks, old folks, and poor people who live in these small communities. So now you are shifting the tax burden for vehicle ownership and driving onto the poor people within your rural counties to pay for the cities. That's crazy. It's nuts. That needs to be fought heavily. And I know everybody's tired. We're getting attacked from so many different directions. One of the things that I keep driving home is none of that is important if your dinner plate is empty. You got to protect your food.
So that's a real issue, and I'm very mindful of it, even on this program. And that is that there are so many attacks coming at every level, and people now are starting to feel the supply chain challenges. We see where there's a potential challenge in the food distribution system. We talk to Andrew every morning, and the farmers in the UK are worried about how they're going to access enough fertilizer to plant crops in the spring and grow anything next year. You've been on this path 24/7. You've already told us you can't sleep. Do you see people that just say, Angel, I just don't want to deal with it anymore. Don't want to think about it. How do people handle with the fatigue is the real question.
Well, I see excuses, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but for example, when Congress comes out with a letter that says we don't like 30/30, everybody kind of throws up their arms and says, oh, okay, Congress is taking care of it. Unless Congress actually stops the money, they can pass all the laws they want that says you cannot spend any money on that. But until they deprive them of the money, and we all know that ain't going to happen, these programs are going into effect regardless of Congress's position and how much they don't like it. They have to get involved. Their county commissioners are the gatekeepers. They really, really are. They have to bug those county commissioners. I have a couple of ranchers who told me we need to fight this. This is really bad, but I don't have time. I understand that. I live that. You should see my place. It's kind of looking a little bit like well, it's very outside of what I normally keep my place because this consumes so much of my time. I get it, but I cannot be everybody's soldier for everyone on everything. I need those folks in those counties to step up and have these conversations with their county commissioners. Go vote. We have an election coming up here in November on the 2nd in Kansas, and I know you don't want to make the time to go vote, but you have to. Because even if you are not in politics, politics are making decisions for you. You should definitely go out there. Those local elections matter more so than any presidential elections.
So I want to follow up on something Carmen brought up. It's an attack on rural areas, and it is. But I think we in the rural areas need to position this correctly. I had a call yesterday, did an hour-long podcast with my friend Kevin Jenkins from Newark, New Jersey, who you met when we were in Emporia on the Arise USA tour. And Kevin and I are determined that together we bring this rural-urban interface, because while they're clearly trying to divide rural America, we need to partner with our cousins in urban America and let them know that what happens to folks in their food supply and their energy supply is going to affect them first and foremost, by the way, because I'm going to have food. I'm just here to tell you, as long as I have enough ammunition to protect it, I'm going to have food. It's the people who live in the urban areas that are going to struggle. So while it is an attack on rural areas, I'm more determined than ever to find a way to mend those fences and come together with people in urban areas that just, number one, don't see what's happening and are going to pay the price if it actually does happen.
Yeah, that's we try as much as possible here, especially on the farm, to do that. And I do see that a little bit when you get out into the farming community. Horses is kind of the best example. When we've worked hard to train our horses to be that champion in the rodeo ring, the last thing we'd want is somebody to come up to them and start teaching them bad habits. So we tend to kind of build that wall there and kind of look at those city folks as no, you just need to stay away. So that is a big obstacle for us, is to be a lot more inviting. On one hand, on the other hand, with PETA and all of those animal rights groups running around, that's really, really hard to do. So maybe we ought to do that with food. Maybe we ought to just set up downtown and have these big roasts and start feeding people off of our farms and talking to them about farming while we're doing that, and just invite them to come in and go. This rural tax on fuel is really, I didn't realize that to an average person in the city, they have absolutely no idea that they think it's a good idea. It's use tax. Yeah, that would be wonderful. They don't understand that everything comes in from the country. It doesn't just show up by plane and land in their grocery store, not even their milk.
Yeah. But you and I need to reach out and be better at communicating with those folks. But to be honest, you mentioned the animal rights organizations, which I've met and know them all personally. I'm not worried about them as much as I am as division within our own ranks. We have people within agriculture, within the state of Kansas, the great agricultural state of Kansas, that still don't see the overall danger of a national heritage area or the 30 by 30 designation, which is all the point blank intent to remove land ownership from the individual. And yet we have people that are so sleeping or are invested that they can't see the forest for the trees.
That angers me, and it angers me terribly. And so I start that conversation with them with an angry voice, and that has now created a animosity. They don't like me at all now. But I did give a presentation to a farm bureau locally in the county not so long ago. And looking at this crowd of just normal, regular farmers, it occurred to me that farmers are abused and have been abused and pushed around since the 1930s, when they took the blame for the Dust Bowl. They're used to being pushed around. And the best way to describe that is a horse trainer. One time I had this horse that just was a cowboy, Sorry, Trent. He was so cowboy and beautiful in the arena, made me look good, but outside of the arena, he was a handful. And I went crying to the Cowboys, what else can I do? And they had me in the round pen, and I had this horse in there. And all of a sudden, this little old man came over and shoved me across that arena. And I looked up at him, shocked that this little guy had that much strength. And he said to me, "Do you like that?" I said, "Well, no, quite frankly, I do not." So why are you letting your horse do it? He's right. I did not realize that I was letting that horse be pushy on me. Didn't see it, didn't know it. I think that's the situation with a lot of farmers. They have been pushed around so much at their NCR off or their conservation districts and their water districts and their farm service agency, and they don't realize that they are letting in that federal government into their personal space, that they are not at this moment their friend. So
and we do have a friend. It is Protect the Harvest. Even though Angel and I have similar roots and we lived close together our whole lives, it took Protect the Harvest to bring us together. Continuing to network people and getting you information you need for property rights, protecttheharvest.com. One segment left. We're going to continue to push Angel around after this. Back in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Roll Route, Trent Loose. I would love to have seen your face the minute you got yourself up off the dirt when that old cowboy pushed you down. That had to be awesome to watch.
You should have seen my face when I hit the dirt. I was quite shocked. I did not see that coming at all. So, and I probably didn't fly across that round pen, but golly, it sure did feel like it.
So every day I close Loose Tales with Be Gentle, Stay Firm. And this is built to have so many meanings now. And I first shared it at my father's funeral. And I looking back, realized that he taught us 3 kids by being gentle, yet staying firm. And I didn't come up with that saying. I stole it from Moses Del Barney, who I see him. The minute you started telling that story, I saw Moses' face, who I met at Brighton, Colorado, at a draft horse and mule sale. And he's this 80-year-old guy still training 2,000-pound percherons and does it with just grace and ease. And it was an amazing conversation. I interviewed him and I said, "Okay, Moses, what's the key to life?" He said, "Whether you're working horses or people, be gentle, stay firm." A lot of lessons come when you have spent time in the round pen with an animal and you learn how to deal with people and you learn how to deal with animals. And it's funny that you go to that analogy to explain what it is that we need to do. Not funny at all. It's very telling.
And typical, really. So that's a big thing is that I'm having to do is to let farmers know that they are being pushed around. And then you have to kind of go from there. I shock people, honestly, when I go to these meetings and I give them all this information. It's so much and so overwhelming that we spend just as much time, or you were there, we spend just as much time with questions and answers as we do in informing people.
You should have saw Angel, you should have saw the look on the, I don't know, there was a couple hundred people at the breakfast meeting I spoke at for Tennessee cattlemen in July. And when I asked them how many of them knew the entire state of Tennessee is a designated National Heritage Area, their mind just went, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, you could just see it. People just don't know what's happening in their own back door.
And if the Senate Bill 1942 goes through, that right now in Tennessee, more than likely, they don't know because the managing entities are leaving them alone. When that Senate bill goes through, they're not going to be left alone. The long-reaching implications of these national heritage areas is that federal boundary. By creating that jurisdiction, you're now opening that area of land up to the Antiquities Act of 1906, not to mention just your local zoning administrator coming down on you. And now you are dealing with every federal regulating entity out there that is coming down onto your farmland and onto your business and your industry. That's a very, very big deal. I can't for the life of me think that that is constitutional. There's no way that national heritage areas are constitutional at all. So and they don't tell you within their laws, their own laws, and that's the reason why none of these ever get above a 2, is because within their own laws, they are required to inform the people, but nobody is ever informed, nobody is ever told or knows unless they have financially contributed or financially benefited from that national heritage area, or have been a victim of it. They don't know that they're in a national heritage area at all. So that's what really bugs me about this drone port. This state loves the military. If Fort Riley sent them a letter, if they put an ad on the radio station, you would probably get a whole bunch of old timers out there with flags waving to the drone, hoping that the young soldier will see their support,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I don't understand why they would be so secretive and why this would be behind their backs and underneath the table that not even the county commissioners knew. And then they have in this request for proposal, they're talking about counties that technically are not in the map of this corridor path. So Ellsworth County, Lincoln County are getting comprehensive plans now, and they're not even in this path of this corridor. So why are they involved? What else is going on is the big question.
Well, I have not followed up on this because they're doing like 12 other things, but and I'm a guy and I can't multitask, as you will tell me at some point in time, Angel. I know, but after I accompanied you at several different events, and I'm thinking of Bruning, Nebraska. We did a National Heritage Area meeting. It was a great meeting. We had great participation, and there was some people there talking about drilling in their area. And they didn't know what they were drilling. They didn't know if they were drilling, not drilling, but doing sampling for drilling like oil or water or natural gas or whatever the case may be. And then after that, I was at a meeting in Bismarck, North Dakota, sitting at lunch with 2 employees of the BLM, Bureau of Land Management. And they asked where I lived, and I told them, the general area right in the middle of Nebraska. And they said, "Oh, you're down there where we're seeking all those new rare earth minerals." I said, "What?" "Well, we've got news that there's some exploration for some minerals in that region." And I asked them what that region was. It was the same exact region that's designated as a potential national heritage area. That's just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Well, now, last night in that conversation with the gentleman that's been trying to attend these meetings up here, he was telling me about the Dakota aquifer. This is a mineral guy. He's quite knowledgeable. And I knew about the Ogallala aquifer, but I did not know about the Dakota aquifer. And he was explaining to me how our salt mines here in southern Kansas ended up as salt mines. It's really fascinating, and I don't want to get into it because I know I'll get it wrong because he's clearly an expert on there. But so I don't know if it's mineral or if it's water or if it's coincidence. I mean, Freedom's Frontier National Heritage Area, when we were over in Missouri, I'm sorry. Okay, if anybody from Missouri is watching this, I did not say it that way. It's Missouri. So when we were in Missouri, they were
only because you were south of I-70, north of I-70, it's Missouri. Go ahead.
Right. So when we were in Missouri, we were told an awful lot about the burnt district, that whole area there during the Civil War was burned down. So very few of any of these buildings are older than the Civil War. That's the burnt district. Why? What is possibly there to incorporate this great big huge national heritage area? Now, mind you, most of that money for Freedom's Frontier National Heritage Area is going to Douglas County, Lawrence, Kansas. Why that area of Missouri then what is there that they possibly want? So it's hard to tell. I don't know if they are picking. I think they're actually picking more by population. They are picking areas where the population is decreasing to have the least resistance. That's my theory on why they're picking locations.
also want to point out that as we continue to debate and hand out money left and right in the trillions, whatever a trillion is, that local organizations tap into money that ultimately works against the local landowner every single time.
Yes. Yes. And that's where the third party and fourth party and like these national heritage areas, they're not legally allowed to acquire land. But if they donate money to an organization that does acquire land, that then donates that back to the national heritage area, well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So
not
they
to
have
mention
these.
Nature's Conservancy or anybody in particular, but
Oh
anyway,
no,
that, that
no,
could happen.
no. We
Angel,
won't mention those guys.
is there a meeting next week in Kansas that we should let people know about?
There is a hearing coming up on October
Right.
29th that is absolutely important, but it's not a hearing. Actually, they're calling a rally. There's a mask mandate rally coming up on October 29th, but October 29th is significant because the Kansas state legislature is holding two committees, special committees. One is on 30 by 30 and property rights, and the other is on the mask mandates and government overreach. The hearing, Ken say that name wrong. Ken Rogers, yes. And Representative Ken Rogers is a committee chair for the land grab special committee. He's thinking that the hearing is going to be probably November. What I've been telling everybody to do is drop those legislatures an email, let them know, consider testimony. Trent, you have to come down and testify during the hearing.
I would love to set Ken Rogers straight because he's very misguided on this particular issue for some reason, despite his rural roots. Wait, 2 minutes left, Angel. What do people need to most know? And I see people asking, how do they keep track of your work? You send out a daily email newsletter, right?
Well, it's not daily, once a week. So message me, give me your email address, and I'll put you on that. The best way is to find me on Facebook under Angel Cushing. We also have Western Region Property Rights Coalition page on Facebook where we keep up with everything. We put all the resolutions. In total, we are now up to 49 resolutions against national heritage areas in the state of Kansas. We're working on that. We're working in the Freedoms Frontier National Heritage Area. We are asking that national heritage area be reduced down to Douglas County, where all the money is going anyway, and get that heritage area off public land or off private property. Now is the time. They're up before Congress asking to be renewed for another 30 years. So now is the time to reduce that boundary. So Angel Cushing on Facebook, Western Region Property Rights Coalition. You can message me, find me through Trent. I think there's been a few people that have found me through you. So there's that. Meetings right now is in concentration really with the county commissioners. So look for us if you're in these national heritage areas. Look for us to be on the agenda. I am looking at. I've been invited and asked to come back to Missouri. I will be at the WIFE meeting up in, I think it's your neck of the woods up there in Nebraska.
I think it's in McCook.
Yep, I'll be there on November 5th. So I'm kind of staying busy.
So I want to close with just a true sentiment of appreciation for Angel Cushing. You know, we talk about civil servants, we talk about volunteer firefighters, we talk about volunteer EMTs, all vital for a healthy future of rural America. The lady that we've been visiting with is a volunteer civil servant. So many times people are doing a job because they get paid. She is not asking for anybody for money, has not accepted money, is embarrassed to even ask to get her expenses covered. And I just want to say a sincere thank you, because not only is she just doing it all on her own time and her husband's own time, they're willing to pay for a FOIA request to get the facts to the public. That is the epitome of an American citizen right there. Thank you, Angel. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have journeyed down the road connecting rural and urban America, reminding you that all roads do lead to a rural route.